I'd like to start by asking General B S Jaswal, who's former Army commander in the Northern Command. General Jaswal, 17 of our forces were martyred, 19 have been injured. How should we respond? Going to the Pakistanis and saying this is the evidence is not going to get us anywhere, General Jaswal. Because the Pakistanis, I saw the response, have responded in the copybook manner that they always respond in situations like this. One of their Pakistan Army spokespersons say, we want actionable intelligence. This is the exact response they gave after Pathankot, and we know how lackadaisical that response was, and nothing happened after that. So they're asking for actionable intelligence, means they want to buy time with us. We don't want to let them buy time. All of India wants to see Pakistan punished. General Jaswal, tell us, as a military man, how should we respond?
Nothing surprising, because deniability is in their DNA. As far as our reaction is concerned, you see, we have not been able to really put pressure on Pakistan diplomatically or politically. Diplomatic, now, yes, we have. Now, once that has not really given results, we must act militarily against Pakistan, because Pakistan only understands one language. If it is hurt, then it realizes. Now, there is a strategic pace in this particular hurt that we have to cause. There is immediate reaction. The picket from which the launch pad was there, that should have been raised to the ground by now. Secondly, if we have to go in for a certain amount of tactical operations without going for a horizontal escalation, so be it. But we must, as far as we are concerned, raise to pickets to ground. If from wherever the terrorists are being launched, thereafter it's the government's will whether he wants to escalate this particular thing or not. Secondly, we need not get scared or worried overtly of the nuclear saber rattling of Pakistan. We are a responsible nation, no first use. But let it be very clear to Pakistan that in future, if it ever deploys its tactical missiles, before it can manifest in terms of destruction on us, as a defensive action, we will destroy it right in its territory. So they dare not do that kind of a thing. I think the military has to now start activating the border, start hitting, and of course, certain amount of clandestine operations that they have to be done, so be it. Rogue state has to be handled in a rogue manner.
When you say activating the border, I mean, what you're basically saying, you engage them militarily, you punish them strategically, and that's the intent. Now, Maroof, this is exactly the point where we need to decide how to take it forward. In the last 48 hours, Maroof, there were as many as 12 infiltration bids by Pakistan. So whatever was happening, Maroof, was a well-thought strategy. Out of the 12, 10 were foiled. So 2 were successful, which means that the Pakistanis also are putting in more and more into sending people across the border with the intent to attack, to hit, and to bleed us. I would say that we've been very lucky that 10 of the 12 were foiled. But the damage they want to cause us, Maroof, is greater, even greater than what happened in Uri today. We can't wait to be a sitting duck now for another terror strike. So if they're hell-bent to push terror into India, what in your view, Maroof, with all your experience, is the best way to respond now?
Arnab, you see, we must understand the timing of this attack. Of course, it has a very clear military print on it, and such attacks are not launched by fly-by-night terrorists. These are attacks that carried out by people who are trained, armed, and with a very focused agenda. Not only does the ammunition and the markings show that, but it is the modus operandi which any military man will understand was designed to create maximum damage and attrition and give Pakistan something to clap itself on its back about. But what is more important is that Pakistan has done this with the intention that in the next 3 days, if India responds, Pakistan would then be able to add fuel to fire at the UN General Assembly speech, which Nawaz Sharif hopes to keep doing, ratcheting up Kashmir in a big way at the UN General Assembly. So, as General Jaswal has rightly brought out, there are various options that are there available. The Northern Command and the respective corps that are deployed along the LOC 15 and 16 corps specifically against Pakistan have those options. They are rehearsed, they are practiced, there are people who are identified, there are maps that are marked out. All this can be done with or without infiltrating troops in, and there are certain amount of even missile strikes that can be carried out on terror targets to convey a message that we are not going to keep quiet. But I want to take the point a little higher. The thing is that the Pakistani argument has all along been that because we have the nuclear umbrella, you can't do anything to us. I don't buy that argument. I've never bought it. I've spoken against it. I've written against it. Quite clearly, tactical nuclear weapons or strategic nuclear weapons, they do not provide Pakistan the impunity unless they are the impunity that impacts on the minds of passive Indians. Now, if this government is very serious about taking it forward, and I think it is, because I haven't seen such statements come out from the political establishment in Delhi for a long time, and I've been looking at Kashmir for 25 years very seriously. I don't think that there has been such clarity of intent. So if there is, then there is time to take action, and we must understand that nuclear weapons or nuclear adversaries apart, there is a strategic window that we have available with us to punish Pakistan in what is our territory. POK, which is the home for all these terror groups, is Indian territory as per the accession of Kashmir, which led to the creation of Pakistan under the rules of partition. If we don't emphasize that point internationally, we are doing ourselves a disservice. So if Mr. Modi has made this point from the ramparts of Red Fort, Mr. Modi's government now must go the whole hog and tell the world that we are taking action on our territory against terrorists who operate against us, whether they operate in Kupwara, they operate in Anantnag, they operate in Uri, or they operate from Muzaffarabad and Mirpur. They are terrorists who operate from Indian territory. And if Pakistan defends them, then Pakistan is obviously putting its card out on the table that Pakistan is a sponsorer of terror. So let us see how far we can call their bluff. And finally, we tell the world that you want to do business with India, then stop doing business with Pakistan. Because you do business with Pakistan, sorry, the doors are closed for you. And the first point where we must make this in Washington, America understands everything when it pinches their wallet. If it doesn't pinch their wallet, they will keep making the noises they've made against Hafiz Saeed, and now the State Department spokesman has spoken against India. Pakistan. Condemning Pakistan is not good enough. United States, you have to take action against Pakistan if you seriously believe your own narrative against terrorism and nuclear weapons. If you don't, then it will prove even the United States is hands in glove with Pakistan as a sponsor of its terror agenda. Period.
Maroof, the simple point I'd like to make, and I think you make a brilliant intervention there, when you say the window to respond is now. And Maroof, I'd like to point to you, and I think I lost the line with Mohandas Pai in between, but I'd like to get him on later on also on the whole aspect of how we pressurize them economically and make them pay that way. But before that, I want to go to Partha. You see, I'm clear on one thing, Partha, and I can just place my views. You are men of greater experience, but I'd say one thing. There is a pattern here, Partha. There is a pattern here. In the lead up to the 2015 United Nations General Assembly session in September 2015, there were 55 ceasefire violations by Pakistan in August alone, and there were 25 which were recorded when the session was going on. The point I'm making to you, Partha, is that I believe we should now look at how Israel would have responded to this kind of a situation. Israel does not go around looking for global approval. Israel does not go around asking people, do you support us if we are going to strike against them? Do you support us if we are going to take action against them? It takes the decisive action and then builds up pressure. The moral support, the ethical base, And the solidity of our reasons to respond is here, Partha. Can we go around looking for global approval for our actions even before we take them? G Parthasarathy, please. Mr. Parthasarathy.
Now, let me say two things. One, politically, I'm very pleased with the statement coming from the Prime Minister, making it very clear that this action of Pakistan will not be cost-free. And from the party by Ram Madhav, making it very clear that a price will be paid. So I think for the first time, government and party are coming out with a very, very clear policy on Pakistan. What needs to be done? I go back to what Maroof said. The timing of this is to stage with Nawaz Sharif's visit to the United Nations. They want us to hurriedly do something which will end in a mess and then make a song and dance in the UN. So two things. Firstly, on the diplomatic side, let us be very clear. I am all in favor of retribution and severe retribution at that, but these things, Arnab, should be very carefully planned. It should be planned. It's a pity the army chief was not in Delhi to attend the meeting of the Home Minister, but who's the number 2 in the cabinet after all. And I think we should, in a coordinated manner, and I'm sure now that the PM has spoken, this will be very carefully considered from now. The consideration would already have started on various things. One, the counter pressure diplomatically. 2, the counter pressure covertly. And Arnab, you will permit me not to go into details of the covert capabilities or potential we have at the present moment, but we can do it. And we can cause them a huge amount of pressure covertly. Third point I would like to say is, with regard to the diplomatic and military. Diplomatically, I think the time has come now to turn the squeeze on Pakistan economically. I think isolate it in SAARC.
Agreed.
Bangladesh and Afghanistan would be quite happy to join us if we decided not to attend the SAARC summit, which will be a blow.
Yeah.
That should be coupled with having a BIMSTEC summit in which we are having in Goa. And let's put SAARC and Pakistan aside for some time and do all our regional cooperation and increasing economic ties through this new grouping through the grouping of BIMSTEC. We didn't take SAARC to meet Putin and others in the BRICS summit. We have taken BIMSTEC deliberately because we didn't want Pakistan.
Yes.
So turn the squeeze, isolate Pakistan and deal with Afghanistan through Iran. Point number 1. Point number 2, I think the human rights lobbies should be activated all over the world on Balochistan. Third, and I would say this, leave it to the military. Please don't micromanage things like you've tried in the past. Leave it to the military to deliver a response at a time and place of their choosing. And I entirely go with Maroof. I have studied Pakistan's nuclear doctrine very carefully. It was enunciated by Lieutenant General Kidwai, who's one of the finer and thinking officers in the Pakistan Army. And we know pretty much where their thresholds are. And I'm pretty certain that we've learned to operate within those thresholds. So let's reassure our people, nothing to worry on that score. And that one, diplomatically, we have now decided to isolate Pakistan in South Asia and in the world. This campaign should go around in the world. Because this is a mistake. They have left grenade launchers. They have left weapon equipment with Pakistani bearings. They have left GPS systems which we can use. So I think don't take this up with Pakistan. You are going to draw a blank and you are going to get a runaround.
Pointless. Agreed.
Do it with the world and deal with Pakistan, isolating them diplomatically and letting the army do what it needs to do.
Yeah. May I intervene to say this tonight, that on this Newshour debate, on this extremely serious subject, as of now, for the voices who have spoken so far, for Maroof Raza, for General Jaswal and G Parthasarathy, all three men who choose their words very, very carefully, and also men of great individual experience, tremendous support is coming in from our Newshour viewers today for what you are saying. And as I move on to Mohandas Pai and GD Bakshi, first to Mohandas Pai. Mr. Pai, I do of course want you to address the issue of whether we can do an economic blockade, for example, in of Pakistan, because at a very, first reaction level, if South Africa during apartheid was isolated internationally, why should Pakistan not be isolated for sponsoring terrorism? I want you to deal with that, but more because you are a very vocal person, and I believe that today the doves have been cornered, and the pseudo-liberals, Mr. Pai, have been trapped in the futility of their own logic of constantly going on like a broken record saying, engage Pakistan, engage Pakistan. That argument is isolated today. Given the public sentiment that exists on the ground, of which your thoughts are a great reflection, Mohandas Pai, what options should we now actually put out and execute, in your view?
Arnab, I believe that tomorrow morning the Prime Minister must call all the opposition parties, ask them for suggestions how to handle it and brief them so that there is a national consensus and nobody speaks out of turn. Very often when these things happen, some opposition leader speaks out of turn and sends a message to Pakistan that we are not united. Now we have to be united. The leader of the opposition has supported the government and condemned this, and tomorrow morning if we were to hold a meeting, we can have a national consensus and make it clear to people. Second, we need a task force under a minister like MJ Akbar with eminent people across society like Dr. Parthasarathy and many other people, not necessarily from the MEA, who will go around the world and tell all world leaders, business leaders what Pakistan is doing and make sure 150 countries are brought up to date about all these events so they're all aware of what has to be done. Third, we must talk to France, with whom we saw him signing the Rafale deal. We must talk to the United States, with whom we have about $15 billion of defense equipment. That it's time for them to stand up and be counted. And in case they don't stand up and to be counted, we shall look at diversifying our arms supplies to countries which are going to stand up for us. I think it's very important to send the message that if you want to do business with us, when you stand on terrorism, we must do these things. Next point which you must do is to make sure that we have a campaign on social media all across the world to isolate all the Pakistani social media, sites, and to make sure this is all brought down like activists are doing for ISIS, and make sure all of the world public opinion is created. Then, Arnab, we must look at financial flows. There's a lot of drug money coming to Pakistan by drugs going outside Pakistan to India, to Punjab. There's Hawala money coming to Kashmir. We must set up a group where we have the best brains from India looking at all these flows of money and how to block them and isolate them between the global bodies which are looking at illicit flows. Globally, when the United States took up matters against ISIS, they choked off all the funds. So we got to look at all these illegal funds, expose the Pakistan Army's illegal deals on drugs all over the world, and make sure that also happens economically. Then you must look at Pakistan trade partners. The EU is a very big trade partner for textiles, and EU has given them preference. Many other countries have given them a preference. And there are very strict anti-terrorist laws, and everybody is a signatory to global treaties for anti-terrorism and terrorism. We must go before those treaty countries and talk to them and tell them that it's time that they impose some kind of a sanction against Pakistan. And lastly, in the United Nations, we must go before the big powers, that the United States, UK, France,
yes,
and China, not China, and Russia, and ask them to bring some measures to have a resolution against terrorism by non-state actors, and say that if countries do not take action against non-state actors within their own country, they will be held accountable and expose Pakistan. It has to be multi-pronged across all these areas simultaneously.
Well, I agree with you, and Mr. Pai, may I say this today, that today if you involve the best minds, the most eloquent voices, the men of greatest experience, and gather them around a table in a room, I can tell you, Mohandas Pai, that people will be willing to drop everything because they will consider it national service. And so if you say, let's get the best minds from India on one platform, and let the government of India say, people will buy their own plane tickets, go around the world to evangelize the Indian cause. But Mr. Pai, while you were talking about UNG, I just want to add this before going to GD Bakshi for his views. You see, my personal greatest frustration has been with the long rope theory. And I don't know why people, when you say stop engaging with Pakistan, say you're a hawk. I'm often described as a hawk because I say don't engage with Pakistan. But Parthasarathy will remember that the greatest mistake Manmohan Singh made was that he went and met Nawaz Sharif for 1 hour in a New York hotel on September 29, 2013, just days after the twin attack in Jammu and Kashmir and Kathua and Samba. That was also happening when a UNGA session was on. So I say today, anyone who says no long rope is being a rationalist. And anyone who says a long rope is compromising national security, and I'd like G.D. Bakshi to come in on this one. Excellent points there, Mohandas Pai. I want G.D. Bakshi to come in. Mohandas Pai talks about an economic blockade. What, in your view, should be our response now? G.D. Bakshi, please.
You know, Arnab, I did my PhD and my thesis was on limited wars in South Asia. So I have done a fair amount of thinking on this particular aspect. May I spell out the matrix of response options?
Please.
Military response options. These range from airstrikes on terrorist camps and terrorist launch pads to military artillery fire assaults. You have Smirch rockets, you have the BrahMos missiles, you have precision engagement techniques with which you can destroy the launch pads from where the particular, infiltration has taken place. We very specifically need to go in for the Jaish-e-Mohammed. You see, and the third would be the use of special forces for strikes across the border. I would not recommend, covert strikes, because we must be seen as inflicting punishment on Pakistan by non-terrorist means. I don't think we need to descend to their level. I think we need to tell our people, this is what Pakistan did, this is what we have done, and so be it. We don't have to hide it. Let the country see. The nation needs a catharsis. Arnab, the nation has been crying for a catharsis for the last 30 years. And then, of course, there is the aspect of Dawood, who can be hit by the naval sea flank. There are a number of means on the naval sea flank. I expect an escalator to get entrained. The moment you take your first steps, there will be countermeasures that Pakistan will be taking. These have been war-gamed. These have been war-gamed. And we should take Pakistan up the escalator till as far as it wants to go, till it cries, uncle. And all this crap about the use of nuclear weapons, for God's sake, let's stop self-deterring ourselves and frightening ourselves into impotence, as we have been doing for the last 30 years, courtesy our peaceniks. I'm glad to see some of the peaceniks change their tune, Arnab, today. They might as well. They are absolutely out of sync with the public opinion in India. I think our tolerance thresholds have been breached. 17 soldiers is a bit too heavy a price to pay and do nothing about it. Our military, our diplomatic, our political leadership is on test, and I'm sure it will measure up. Pakistan has been asking for it for the last 30 years. Yes, an escalator will be entrained. So be it. We will take Pakistan as far as it wants to go. And all this crap about nuclear weapons, let me tell you a few home truths. Pakistan is 1/5 the size of India. If we fire our arsenal, even a part of it, most of it will be on the Pakistani Punjab, from where the Pakistan army comes. Not a crop will grow there for the next 800 years. And the Pakistanis know it, Arnab. In the 3 months of the Kargil war, how many nuclear bombs fell on New Delhi? Let's stop self-deterring ourselves. Let this lobby, which has been trying to frighten the wits out of our political leadership, now kindly take a break and give us a break. The nation has been seeking a catharsis, a national catharsis for 30 years.
I have a slight, General Bakshi, may I please, with the greatest of respect, I agree with you on several things. I have a slight difference of opinion when you refer to this lobby. My view on that matter is that this lobby is overhyped. This lobby, whatever is remaining of it, is irrelevant. And this lobby must be called out. So while Mohandas Pai makes a useful suggestion, as the Prime Minister calls a meeting tomorrow of all political parties, takes them into confidence and moves on, Mr. Pai, it's a good suggestion. But I would add that even if the Prime Minister were to act on his own conviction, because he has the mandate of the people of India to act, that he does not need to take the approval of Salman Khurshid and Manishankar Iyer or their cohorts to decide what the next step is going to be. Because I want to see tonight, General Jaswal, where are those people who till last week were calling for repealing the Armed Forces Special Powers Act? That group is never going to change its line, General Jaswal. Those people have gone into hiding. While I agree with the diplomatic efforts, General Jaswal, I'm also aware, General Jaswal, that Pakistan has made a resolve to lie. They lie on the diplomatic stage. They will not act on terror groups. That is the norm. That has not given us anything. So we need to go for a very aggressive, very visible, and very quick response. May I now request you to go a little bit into detail into what we started out here? Because, General Jaswal, we know Pakistan has not even allowed our NIA team, which is investigating Pathankot, to visit Pakistan. We're not going to depend on them. So what will we do now, and within what time frame do we respond?
It is our decency which has been taken advantage of, and it's high time that we shed our decency and we talk in tough terms with Pakistan. What you're talking about AFSPA, I always give one-line answer to it. Why did AFSPA have to be introduced in Kashmir? It is on account of the proxy intent of Pakistan. What has happened in Uri today is a proxy intent. Has the intention changed? No. So all these, peaceniks who keep saying, or the protagonists of the statement, AFSPA be removed, they better be seized with the reality that if in case AFSPA is removed, Kashmir is going to burn and terrorist attacks are going to be all over. As far as our responses are concerned, I still believe in one thing. Yes, the UNGA assembly is there, and Mr. Parthasarathy said absolutely correctly, we have contingency plans for such like reactions which have been approved by the government, and they are within our space. As an army commander, I could take certain action. The total freedom was there with me, and I did take action. And I think immediately we should target 2-3 pickets which are raised to the grounds, and then thereafter in the strategic space which is there, we calibrate our response in a very collective manner and in a very cohesive manner, so that the pain is felt sequentially and also in a manner that he says, oh my God, I am down on my knees, please stop it now. Till the time we don't cause physical pain on Pakistan, it is not going to behave. You take it from me.
No. You see, so the idea, therefore, General Jaswal, is this.
So
now we are getting into details. We as a nation, General Jaswal, and let's take this forward. Partha, Mohandas Pai, if you want to come in, and Maroof also on that one. Feel free to, by the way, gentlemen, intervene at any point of time into this debate, though I appreciate the time that you're giving each other. I'm also enjoying the depth to which we are discussing the subject tonight. To put it simply, Maroof and Partha and Mohandas Pai, we must bring Pakistan down to its knees. And I, for one, am not among those doves who say, a stronger Pakistan will make a stronger India. I have never heard such greater rubbish than if that were line, Maroof, were to be used now. We need to cripple them. We need to bring them down on their knees. We need to expose those who fund them. And we need to go after those who arm them. And there's a specific context to this. Most of the foreign investment coming into Pakistan, 80% of it is coming from one country, and that country is China. China has been with them when Masood Azhar was being protected. We could not get a ban against Masood Azhar for that reason. So Maroof and Partha and G Bakshi and Mohan, I want you to go into detail on this, because I feel that if Somalia or South Sudan can be punished, Pakistan can be too. Maroof, I think you wanted to go first. Gentlemen, on that point, please feel free to intervene with each other. Maroof goes first. Yes, Maroof.
Yeah.
Arnab.
Arnab, I'll request the panelists to just give me 2 minutes. Point one, when the Prime Minister of India decides to take action in the interest of national security, particularly to go to war, he doesn't need the approval of all parliamentarians. This is a mandate that the people of India have given him. He must use that mandate. Let me remind the people of India that in 1965, when Marshal of the Air Force, now and then Air Chief Marshal Arjun Singh, had gone to J&K and come back with the Army Chief to go and report to the then Defence Minister, Mr. Chauhan, that the Pakistani infiltrations have exceeded the limits of our appreciation and understanding of what numbers could come in and we could handle. So Mr. Chauhan took the decision to ask the military to prepare to go to war without, and this is on record, without taking the cabinet's approval or the Prime Minister's approval. So if the Raksha Mantri of that day could do it, I'm sure the Pradhan Mantri today can do it. The second point to understand is that when you look at confrontation with Pakistan, confrontation is not about going the whole hog and pressing one button and blowing each other off completely from the face of the earth. These are escalatory levels. Anybody who has studied nuclear strategy, and I've had the privilege of being taught by some of the best minds in the world, is that a nuclear strategy has 44 rungs of the ladder, and the first 24 rungs of two nuclear states, they don't even seriously contemplate using nuclear weapons. So we have enough of a strategic window to do what we want. Now, if we don't want the situation to escalate into a full-fledged war, we can use BrahMos and other missiles to target terror camps, of which General Jaswal, by his own admission on this channel 2 weeks ago, said there are 32 or more camps that we have blueprints of. So let's knock them out to start with before we look at air escalation and various other factors. And there is a very important point I want to make diplomatically, and that is that the only way Pakistan will feel the pain, and this is a study I've done a bit on sanctions all over the world. Sanctions don't hit the people you wish them to be hit with, whether it is the military dictators of Korea, North Korea, whether it was the junta in Myanmar, or whether it was the leadership in South Africa. This comes into play to the leadership at the last minute. The common man suffers. So sanctions must be imposed very clearly against Pakistani generals and their families who are operating out of the US, who study there, who have medical treatment there, and who live off handouts of American companies for every deal that comes. Now, freeze their assets, freeze their going out, blacklist them. If the United States could blacklist Mr. Modi for 10 years for not being allowed to visit the US with a visa, how the hell are they allowing Pakistani generals who sponsor terror all across the region to continue to go and hibernate in the US and have holidays, even after Shuja Pasa as DG ISI admitted to General Hayden, the then chief of the CIA, which is on his book now, that yes, the operation of 2611 had an ISI role in it. And after that, the US has continued to condone them. They are the biggest hypocrites in the world, if you ask me. Now, the next point that we need to understand, and the point that Mr. Pai made, which is a very good one, that there are various levels at which you can get the sanctions to come into play against Pakistan and their drug cartel and terror apparatus. Do you know that the Pakistan army has its own resources of $20 billion a year through the Fauji Foundation, and they run a parallel economy to the Pakistan economy? As far as China is concerned, China is the biggest bloody hypocrite. It sponsors terror groups, it sponsors isolated countries all over the world. North Korea survives because of China, despite Beijing's lip service to NPT and everything else. China needs Pakistan for the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Make it unviable, make Gwadar unviable for Pakistan and China, and see how they turn around. There are ways you can do it without a full-fledged confrontation. Absolutely. And you tell the whole world which wants to do business with India, sorry friends, you first call off all trade links with Pakistan, then we let you trade here. America gave Pakistan $31 billion. It gave Pakistan $31 billion. And we've given them weapon sales worth $15 billion. We should hang our head in shame that we are sponsoring a country that is sponsoring Pakistan. I've had enough of this double standard and this pussyfooting that we have in Washington. And a whole lot of NGOs and peaceniks who speak for America, they are funded by Washington. They are funded by Washington to take the line that there could be a nuclear escalation. That's a whole lot of crap. We must put an end to it. Absolutely. I've had enough of it, Arnab. If this country needs to have a fresh approach to foreign policy, then let's dump all the jargon that we've lived with.
I agree with you, Maroof, because we keep making the same mistake again and again and again. right? And all these groups that talk about, oh my God, we are going to create a warlike situation vis-a-vis Pakistan, never ask about who is responsible for creating an atmosphere that leads to a warlike situation. We know about plausible deniability. We know the Pakistanis have that line, and yet we go for that same old route. So before Partha comes in, and I want to go to Partha because we are seeing two lines of argument going on here right now. One is simply seeming to suggest that going for the diplomatic route, getting a bounty of assurance from Pakistan or its sponsors is wasting our time. Is wasting our time. Simply put, I would like Partha to respond, but before that, Mohandas Pai wanted to make it an intervention. Yes, Mohandas Pai, you know, people actually want to hear from you specifically on whether we can cripple them. We need to cripple them to bring them down to their knees. Mr. Pai, your suggestions, please.
Arnab, we must have a quiet chat with China and tell them very clearly that India will not assert China keeping quiet when Pakistani terrorists do all this around the world, especially the United Nations. In the last 10 years, we have had $400 billion trade deficit with China. We must look at a major imports from China, check up whether there are alternatives, look at some duty, putting some severe duty for dumping, which we are experts at, or take other action to demonstrate that India is not going to be a market for China easily because we've been having a trade deficit. We hardly export more than $8 to $10 billion to China, primary goods, and we can afford not to do too much business with China. China has a $40 billion yearly trade surplus with India, and we must leverage that. Two, we must look at all the financial flows, especially the money kept aside by illegal activities, drug money by Pakistan and the Fauji's and the Fauji companies outside, and expose them. We should gather all the intelligence and tell the United States and other countries that money laundering is happening on a very big scale, and this money laundering should be exposed. Because the world takes terrorist financing very, very seriously, and we must develop the intelligence, we must talk to the major banks, and I'm sure we must do that. And third and last, we must activate all our all our resources in the United States, especially the NRI committee, NRIs who are very well connected to talk to Donald Trump, to talk to Hillary Clinton, and talk to the Obama administration and urge them to do many things to stop this terrorism, because these are major donors to all the political parties. They great political power, and you must have a campaign to get them on the track to do all this. I think you must do this all across the world to bring the pressure and then take whatever action is required.
No, I get your point there, but I would like Partha to come in on that point. GD Bakshi,
may I join in, Arnab?
Before you come in, just wanted to quickly go to Partha. I'm coming into you. Partha, I want to explore this issue of isolation. See, if you see the whole tone and tonality of the discussion today so far, I'm not trying to sort of bring down the relevance of a diplomatic effort that is required. But Partha, there is a feeling that a diplomatic effort at this stage alone may not work. And I'm sure that's coming across to you as well.
Listen, Arnab, I was in Moscow during the Bangladesh conflict. Young officer, but kept track of all the discussions which took place to get Soviet support. The Soviets then, to start with, were no different from what the Americans are behaving now. Yes, Pakistan is bad, they've sent in 11 million refugees, but world peace, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, Mrs. Gandhi left them with an ultimatum. You take the choice. We'll do this alone, but it would be good if you backed us, because you'll be backing the winner.
Yes.
You have to talk to the Americans in those terms. We get far too apologetic with the Americans. I think it is time to tell them that, look, we know that you're unwilling to act against Pakistan, though the Haqqani network has killed 2,000 of your soldiers, and the Haqqani network is armed and trained by Pakistan. So, you may be willing to take it, we are not. And let me also tell you, I've been about 6 weeks in America. Especially after the California killings, the public opinion against Pakistan is very strong. And I go back to what Mohandas Pai said. We have 2 million Indian nationals there waiting to be asked. They are funding everybody from Donald Trump to Hillary Clinton. We are the one country and community there which has no enemies. Nobody dislikes Indians. Indians are doing great there. Use them. Use your NRIs everywhere. Use your human capital to turn the heat. But like Mrs. Gandhi went around the world and saying, this is our problem, we will have to act in our interests if you don't join, whether or not you join us. I think the Americans and everybody else has told us. With regard to China, I think the real factor is Pakistan is an instrument used by China for low-cost containment of India. But I think you can, they are all, but at the same time they don't want tensions on our borders. So I think you can, like you went with the Soviets to start with at that point in time, tell them that look, that's okay, but there are limits to our patience. And you will have to understand and appreciate that. That message has to go to China, that we desire the best of relations with you. And whatever your relations with your quote, true trusted friend, you know, your all-weather friend, we will be constrained to act if they continue by this path. So use China as an element of pressure. Don't expect too much. They're going to continue arming Pakistan. Deal with Pakistan on the lines that General Jaswal has said. Let's be very clear. Pakistan army leads to comfortable a life. All that they are interested in is getting properties. Unlike in India, they control all the properties and all the cantonments. So every one of them is into money making through their Fauji Foundation or whatever it is. I think this message needs to go across to the world that there are limits to our patience. And that we are not asking them much. We are asking them to bear with us when we are not asking you for anything, but bear with us and understand us when we are constrained to change policy and act tough. That is the way of dealing with it. We're a country of 1.5 billion people.
And if I
Arnab, can I kindly, I want to
add one thing before General Bakshi, I'm just coming in before you say.
One point.
Today the approach clearly is act and then deal with the consequences. That's how Indira Gandhi dealt with it. That is how people would say that the present leadership of the government of India should deal with the situation. Also, don't feel answerable to the world that we have to talk to Pakistan. We will not talk to Pakistan under any circumstances. They've vitiated the situation again and again. We cannot have NSA level talks. We cannot have foreign minister level talks. We should boycott the SAARC summit. We should not have any more goodwill measures. We should stop track 1, 2, 3, all tracks of
I have one more point to add.
Now,
I have one more point to add.
Arnab, can I?
The SAARC summit is in Pakistan. I think Bangladesh and Afghanistan are willing to go by whatever we say. We should take a collective decision on whether we boycott it or alternately go there and make life hell for Pakistan. So the choice, we can work it. Turn the screws on Pakistan in Pakistan. The other point is, let us isolate Pakistan in South Asia, stop dealing with all this through SAARC. We are now having a meeting of all our eastern neighbors together with Thailand and Myanmar with the BRICS in Goa. So let's work with that grouping. They are ready to cooperate economically. Tell Pakistan you don't want it, stuff it. You know, that's it.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry to say. I'm so sorry to say that one last thing.
Arnab, can I? There are two important points here.
General Bakshi, may I just complete one point?
Can I come in?
General Bakshi? No, one point.
Yes, please.
Let me just say, with regard to public opinion here, sadly, we have fellows who go for a 1 week or 5-day visit to Pakistan, eat a lot of kebabs and what have you in Lahore, and come back saying, oh, what lovely people, we should love them, we should not do anything. I think Indians tend to be gullible when they visit that country. And I think those who are, and you know, we had somebody writing about a week there and what a great time it was. I've spent 5.5 years there and I know them backwards. Yes, in provinces other than Punjab, we have good friends. But Punjab is the military, never forget that. And don't get too impressed by kebabs in Lahore.
Absolutely. Well, I think I agree that Lahore view of the world won't work.
After the flavor of the kebabs, can I just make some military points? Arnab. Arnab, you know, in the excuse me, can I? Yes. In the architecture of our devising our strategy, we have to understand two things. We are beyond the stage of deterring Pakistan because it has already been carrying out terrorism for the last 30 years. We have to enforce compellence. What is the target of compellence? The target of compellence is the Pakistan army, the key decision maker in Pakistan, especially as it comes to policies related to Jammu and Kashmir, India, and the nuclear dimension, is the Pakistan army. Unless you specifically engineer the methods that you are taking, the steps that you are taking to hurt the Pakistan army in specific, its leadership in particular, I'm afraid you will not get the bang for the buck. Economic, encirclement, economic boycott, economic sanctions will take their time. There will be n number of nations willing to step in and, defeat your economic boycott, starting with China. The fact of the matter is, you have to go militarily.
GD Bakshi, when I mentioned a blockade, I think you misunderstood me. I say when I talk about a blockade, and I want to take this with General Jaswal, Mohandas Pai as well. When I talk about a blockade, I say a blockade, not just an economic blockade, but I'm talking about an arms embargo, because since 1992, there has been an arms embargo in operation against Somalia, which essentially means a restriction on the trade of arms and ammunition because of the then ongoing civil war. If the UN can also call for an arms embargo on South Sudan, on Somalia, I don't see why Pakistan cannot be punished for using its military infrastructure to support lethal terrorism against India. So I say change the pattern. But what I liked in the point made earlier by Mr. Pai, which I think got missed, was this is the time to get the public opinion moving, Maroof, in America. Make Pakistan a subject of debate in the presidential elections. The time and opportunity is now. If they can debate North Korea, they can debate Pakistan. And this is the opportunity and the time to make that happen. Maroof, Mohandas Pai. General Jaswal want to make a point before that. Yes, General Jaswal. General Jaswal.
Okay. I just want to say we have another very big opportunity with us to cause pressure onto Pakistan. We have an opportunity of balkanizing the whole of Pakistan. As a matter of fact, that will pinch the army in Pakistan because it'll get engaged all over and its fangs will be absolutely blunted, because we have the opportunity, we have ample opportunity. As a matter of fact, the moment that process starts off, the way they're trying to balkanize India, I think that will pinch them really, really hard.
Okay,
you know what I mean.
What's the time frame of the action? No, I know that we have to measure the response, but quickly, I'll give the last word to you, Maroof, on this part of the debate, but time frame for the action. Now, if you take a straw poll among people, Mohandas Pai, people want to see action now. But action has to be taken with a degree of permanence. Even more than the immediacy of the action must be the impact of that action. So how should the government deal with that? Mohandas Pai, and then last word to Maroof.
Can I, on that aspect, just say a word?
Arnab, they must set up task force in all these areas, have an overall strategy. Arnab, we must have task forces, we must have teams of people going across, we must contact the NRIs, we must look at financial flows, look at the Hawala flows, and make sure that we target them, disclose the information, get teams to work together. So there must be a special group in the PMO which is going to coordinate all this with an action plan over the next 3 months with 15-day, 30-day, 45-day action plan, and all this should culminate in greater paying cost to Pakistan for having done all this terrorist attack. We need to expose them to the world. We have been very soft, and like Parthasarathy said, we must stand up and tell the countries which trade with us that unless you stand up against terrorism, do what you promised to do, you will not be able to trade with us very, very easily, especially where we have leverage.
Yeah, absolutely. And Maroof, quick word to you.
Can I just quickly?
Maroof, please. Maroof, take the word and then I take a break. Maroof, please. Yeah,
only if you have exerted military pressure.
Arnab.
Yes, Maroof.
Arnab, I want to go beyond military pressure. That aspect has been discussed a bit in detail, but there are 2 or 3 other quick points. The point one is that for many Pakistanis now, the pipe dream is the China-Pakistan economic corridor. They are hoping that the CPEC and the $46 billion promised investment of the Chinese are going to suddenly turn Pakistan around in the next 5-7 years into a developed country. We must do everything in our power, diplomatically, strategically, and militarily, to disrupt this action, particularly as the CPEC flows through Indian territory. The China-Pakistan economic corridor is going to run through Gilgit-Baltistan, which is technically our territory. We must put spokes into it and make sure that this pipe dream of Pakistan crashes. The second thing to understand is that as far as Pakistan and India are concerned, internationally, we have a larger number of people who are internet and cell phone users. Every Bollywood star in India, every Bollywood film in India gets the highest ranking of Twitter likes and dislikes. Why can't we use our population to start creating a Twitter delusion in the world to deal with Pakistan as the sponsor of global terror? And this has to start at home. We have to counter their narrative and the social media platform. If we think we are a knowledge powerhouse and an IT powerhouse, then let's bloody well get our act together and start countering their narrative across the world. It is for that reason that Indian stars figure high on the list of likes of top liked people in the world, as against some very highly paid and respected Hollywood stars, because they don't have that many Twitter users. So let's use that soft power also as we use military power, diplomatic power, economic power, and finally, we have to get the world together to make a choice. They're either with us or against us. If we can't get them to do it, we should hang our heads in shame, and we should revamp the whole Foreign Service and the Ministry of External Affairs, because whatever, I have full respect for people like Mr. Parthasarathy, but there are a lot of other diplomats who are not doing their honest day's work. They must get on with the business of promoting India's agenda and stop being apologetic and only look at their silk ties.
Maroof, as I take a break, if I may just come in, and I just want to say this for the views of the 5 gentlemen who participated so far on this panel: General Jaswal, Mohandas Pai, Mr. Parthasarathy, GD Bakshi, and Maroof will stay with us. I want to tell you there's overwhelming support for your views today. And I wanted the funneling of views deliberately on this special Sunday edition of the Newshour. If I can just add to this, viewers, wherever you are as a proud Indian, this is the time for national service. We must think now, and you must think now, which way and in how and in which way can you pitch in to stand with the nation? Which way, how, through your action at an individual level, can you stand with our republic, this great Republic of India, so that the enemies on the other side don't take us for granted? I thank you for your views. This debate continues on the other side. The hashtag tonight is rightly India with the forces.